To the Libertarians, I'm immensely glad that we gathered together, and I am thankful for each one of your votes. On election night, I let out a shout when I saw the television news display my name with over 1,000 votes. I am still in awe. Former President Grover Cleveland once said, "All who voted for him placed upon him a supreme and sacred trust." This year, the community placed their sacred trust in me to behave in a way befitting my role. Flawed as I am, I executed that task well. One of the main decisions of my campaign was my agenda. NC lawmakers are tasked with joining committees, writing bills, and voting. As such, it was important to demonstrate how I would vote on a myriad of topics, which I did. I outlined a healthy number of objectives, 5. Representative Dahl has tried and failed to juggle 6, and Mr. Hensley spoke of an insufficient 3 objectives. All of my goals were urgent, yet I failed to get everyone's attention. As voters, we are often not prepared for someone to come along with knowledge and stern morality, to push back against the noise, and make a case for a different view. I tried hard to be active, but not answering the News and Observer's short questionnaire was an accidental error. To some, my goals sounded esoteric and pompous. Some assumed that they would not affect us often, and yet, every time we purchase alcohol, or pay our electric bill, or interact with the police, or seek information from government, or head to the nearest hospital, or start a new career, or send our kids to school, or receive our paycheck, or go to vote, or visit the pet store, or prepare for a hurricane, in each my goals would have changed these for the better. As we speak, there is a war going on between freedom and tyranny, and the Cato Institute has reported updates since the year 2000. North Carolina was ranked 12th in freedom by them that year and has slipped to rank 24. I pushed myself to travel into neighborhoods nearly every day. Nevertheless, I regret not initiating more face-to-face conversations. I purchased too many campaign items and did not distribute it all, so had I known, I could have spent money on digital ads instead. On the other hand, my purchases were all frugal, and I was able to accomplish much with little. I regret giving $10 to the Constitution Party. I made that decision out of naivety, so I apologize. I was the only candidate to show respect for parental rights, among other surprisingly basic things. Both Republicans and Democrats of NC prefer to tell parents how they must raise their children, or that they cannot stop their children from doing certain things. I, alone, suggested parents should have a large say. I stood strong for decentralization in a world obsessed with the presidency and struggles to comprehend that moving funds down to the local level would be returning power to the people. I was the only candidate who stood up for your freedom of expression. My Republican opponent wanted to ban medical masks, and the incumbent had co-signed bills which would criminalize certain speech. I stood for respect and a resistance to bias. I defended the facts surrounding my presidential candidate even when people panicked and turned to Trump or Harris. I criticized Mr. Oliver when diehards were insisting that he had run a perfect campaign, but I showed Mr. Oliver kindness when he came to visit us. Even though Mike Ross was my friend, I probed him with difficult questions to test him publicly and was glad to see he kept his word. He revealed that his stances were thought out. He stood tall as a man of virtue. Mike, if you are listening, thank you for securing our state's ballot access. In my role, I embodied the quest to be honest and transparent as I tried to be a listener and servant to voters. I did not allow confidence and knowledge to prevent me from accepting criticism or contemplating improvement. I dressed myself in formal wear, with rarely an exception, to honor the solemn nature of being a candidate. I researched our community, which was how I learned about a controversial decision and possible cover-up which took place in NC State this year, and is how I learned about the complex housing situation of Apex and Cary. Likewise, I attended a town hall in Raleigh where I polled residents to learn whether they like ranked choice voting, and it turns out they love it more than I could have guessed. I obeyed our laws. Whenever on my bike, I wore a helmet and used hand signs. I respected everyone's property rights, and I did my part to report finances accurately. I fought to be consistent every day. I showed respect for the rule of law and reserved civil disobedience for only serious wrongs. Thus, I did not take a photo of my ballot. My hope was that this could convince other lawmakers to view me as a potential ally on issues of common ground. I would have been an effective lawmaker. I fought for a vision of my party in between the two other parties to try to meet voters where they are. On abortion and private school spending and fiscal responsibility, I spoke on behalf of the average person and the most voters, whether they voted for me or not. I sought this with my ears open to a diverse crowd local and across the state. Kerry is not as blue as pundits claim, and the evidence is with how well my opposition to the housing referendum resonated with them. I hope someday our community wakes up to see that they are evidently very libertarian, but that task I cannot do alone. It was costly to run for office with full effort. My monetary loss was $500. I spent afternoons every week for months focused, and that was time taken away from socializing, walking with Jesus, my second job, exercising, and more. I lost 4 pounds this year from the anxiety and frantic biking across town. My mom is always so worried about my health, and because I love her so much, I feel I have let her down by allowing myself to get skinnier. Meanwhile, the stress of this experience caused hairs on each side of my head to turn gray. My run for office put a strain on certain relationships, and I had to keep it a secret from some. But I also gained much. I honed my charisma, persuasive skills, restraint, and knowledge. I gained a needed boost to my self-esteem and felt like a rebel with a cause and like a hero. I made more friends than I lost and received praise from the ones who stayed. I overcame my shyness permanently. When the Libertarian Party was in danger due to infighting, I was there to help prop it up through this ugly episode. I read from Ballot Access News that this year had the fewest libertarians running for office in 2 decades, but I went against the grain to keep the torch lit. We candidates were like the Chapel Hill fraternity bros who kept the American flag from touching the ground. Only instead of protecting a symbolic rectangular fabric, we protected America's third options when they go to vote for who to rule over them. I exercised my freedom to an extent deeper than I ever have before, and wow, did it feel good. Say, where's our alcohol party GoFundMe, North Carolina? To the Libertarian Party, I thank you for the assistance and acceptance. To Brad Hessel, thank you for being my treasurer. The whole region owes a big debt to you for your behind-the-scenes work. To Rob Yates, thank you for being a cheerleader and a confidant. To the voters, I thank you most of all. Please consider giving a perpetual donation to the NC Libertarian Party. I can vouch for them that they are a great bunch who will put your money to good use. Before I go, I want to make you aware of my future plans. I founded a social club. It is called the Swift Creek Cary Freedom Club, and if you live within the area shown here on the screen, and if you are younger than 45 years old, you are formally invited to join. Send me an email at contact@cordonforliberty.org if you wish to socialize and advance liberty in our corner of District 11. For voters who do not live nearby, this is goodbye. It was an honor being your candidate. I hope I did not disappoint, and I wish you all the best. Your neighbor, Matthew Kordon.